Hey, good morning. Welcome here to New Community Church of Union online service. As you can tell, I'm not coming to you today from the studio. Last week we weren't able to record from the studio as well. We had some COVID concerns last week, and this week we do also have some health issues going on and some weather-related issues. So here I am at home. And I'm going to be just want to give you a quick message. Um, Here I am. Welcome. Glad you're here with me. Um, we have today's December 4th, and it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas here. We have in the last week had about a foot of snow, somewhere in that range, some more, some less. So it is definitely beginning to look a lot like Christmas here in the Pacific Northwest, here in Union. Now, you probably know already that we're not built for this kind of snow. I mean, Union and Pacific Northwest really isn't made for this kind of snow. And so we have actually canceled our in-person service today as well. Because the roads are treacherous. We don't want people trying to get up and down hills and in and out of driveways and stuck and falling and all of that kind of thing. So there is no in-person service this morning either. It just creates a whole lot of problems, and we'd rather you be safe and warm at home, and we will resume services again next week, Lord willing and weather willing. Some of the things that happen as a result of this amount of snow here also is something called power outages. You all know what I'm talking about. Most of you watching have probably been through them. Lately, in the last 4 days, I believe we've had 2 power outages. One was began Tuesday evening, 7 p.m., at least at my house anyway, and lasted about 12 hours. Power came on somewhere around 7 a.m. the next morning. And the second power outage happened Friday, and it started at my house 7 a.m. and came on about 4 p.m. And the power was on again at 4 p.m. So a couple of major power outages. I was at home for both of those. Of course, slept through one, thankfully, warm quilts. The second one, I was here at the house, and it was rather inconvenient. It's amazing how much we depend on power, isn't it? We don't even know how much we depend on power until we don't have it. Certainly certainly there was no heat without power, but I couldn't take a shower. I couldn't warm up anything to eat or to drink. Couldn't turn on lights, couldn't turn on the TV, couldn't check email, couldn't do any internet stuff. I mean, without power, there's just nothing that I could do. And, it was rather annoying. Thankfully, we have a fireplace. So I was able to start a fire. And as long as I was within about 10 feet of that fireplace, I was able to stay warm. And, it didn't get terribly cold, but I got to tell you, a day without power, I confess to you that I was a little cranky. I was getting tired, and I was just kind of getting worn out, dealing with all this and wondering when it was going to come on. Keeping the fire going, keeping myself going, all of that kind of thing. And, though I had a lot of time to think, as I'm sure you had a lot of time to think, when there's no electronics you can use, when there's no TV, when there's no internet, it gives you a lot of time to think. And I began thinking about Joseph and Mary. I began to think about their journey from Bethlehem, or from Nazareth to Bethlehem. And as I thought about it, I thought about their inconveniences. I had a lot of inconveniences with the power out, but I began to think about their inconveniences. And here you have Mary, who's 9 months pregnant, maybe within a week of giving birth, and Joseph and Mary have to go on a long journey to Bethlehem. I don't know of any woman who would gladly say, yes, I'm 9 months pregnant, I'm about to give birth. Anytime now, let me ride a donkey and take a long journey to Bethlehem. I don't know of anyone who would do that. I don't know of any husband who would be glad and who would be thinking it's a good idea and feeling good about themselves for saying to his 9-month pregnant wife, we got to take a journey to Bethlehem. I'll do what I can for you. I'll try to keep you comfortable. I got a donkey for you. At least you don't have to walk. I don't know of any husband who'd be pleased about doing that to his wife. I just can't imagine what they went through. I mean, certainly that wasn't the way they wanted to spend their day. That's not the way they envisioned the circumstances of having their first child. I'm sure they've envisioned the circumstances of having their first child. Of Mary would be in her mom's home, and her mom would be there, and her aunts would be there, and cousins, and everybody to help, and Joseph would be with his friends and his family, and it would all go well, and people knew what was going on, and they could handle it, and but they had none of that. There they were, taking a long journey to Bethlehem. How would they, how would they get through it? How would they deal with that? How would they get through it? I can imagine they're thinking, are we there yet? Are we ever going to get there? How much further? I don't know how much more I can take of this. Would it ever end? Would they get rest from this journey? When the power was off, there came a time that I heard the beeping of electronic equipment, and the humming of the refrigerator compressor began. And I thought, yes, the power's back on. This is wonderful. Yes, there's lights back on. This is great. I was happy. The journey for me was over. I had suffered enough. Power's back on. I could get back to life. I could enjoy a hot shower. I could check emails. I could do all the things that I wanted to do. And while I was celebrating that, the humming of the compressor stopped. Lights went off, and the power was out. I was so close. I was so close to have life resume as normal. I was almost there. And to have the power go out, it was disheartening. If I was cranky before, I was just downright ornery. I was grumpy and ill-tempered. To be so close to endure that and then have to endure more. I can't imagine Mary and Joseph. They finally get to Bethlehem. They can finally rest. They can refresh themselves. They can wash. They can find some comfort for Mary. They can get back to life. They can sleep in a bed. They can get some warm food. They can warm up from the cool night air. Bethlehem during this time of year, at least these days, I don't know that it would have been too much different then. The average high is 63 degrees. The average low is 48 degrees, somewhere in there. So it wasn't terribly cold, but it was certainly made them cold. I mean, when my house went down to 59 degrees, I decided I was cold. Like, it was only 59 degrees. Get some heat on in here. So if the average low when they got to Bethlehem was 48, they were chilly. They had their layers on. They had as much as they could. And they were looking forward to warming up. They were looking forward to a place with a bed and to be able to wash and just relax and then prepare for the baby that's coming. And you know the story. You can imagine place after place, inn after inn. Sorry, we're full. Sorry, we're full. They end up in a cave. Most stables during those days were caves. And they end up in a cave. There's no central heat. There's no hot water. There's no bed. There's no place to refresh yourself. There's just straw and hay and stink and darkness. It's out of the wind and the elements. Perhaps there's a fire that they could have built to sit around or something, but there's no refreshing. There's no warm place to rest at night. There's no safe place, if you will, to have a child. And if they were cranky already, they likely would have been grumpy, perhaps maybe even a little ill-tempered. Mary can't believe what she has had to endure, and Joseph can't believe what he's been putting his bride through. To endure so much and then to get there and realize they've got to endure more. How would they get through this? How could they keep going? And then Mary's water breaks. Time to get to the hospital. Time to call the midwife. Time to call Mary's mom and her sister and Mary's aunts and have them take over. Only that's not possible because they're not there. There isn't a hospital to go to. There aren't midwives they can call, and Mary's mom and aunts are far away. Mary has only Joseph, and Joseph has only Mary. I don't know, obviously, what childbirth is like from a woman's point of view, but I can't possibly imagine that Mary would have been very pleased about having to go through the birth of her first child without her mom, without a midwife, without her aunts, without her support system. I can't imagine the fear she must have had, the loss she must have been feeling. I just can't imagine that. But I can't imagine Joseph. I would never want to have had to deliver my own two daughters by myself. I couldn't have done it. It wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't be here today if it was up to just me. And there's Joseph, never delivered a baby before, doesn't know about any of that kind of thing. They've never had a child before. This is the first. And Joseph just has Mary. There's no book, there's no internet, there's no Google, there's nothing. And the only thing that I would know to say is push. And I know that's not sometimes helpful and sometimes not even appreciated. But there's Joseph and Mary, just the two of them. And Jesus is born. Jesus arrives. He made it. Mary gave birth. Joseph gives thanks. In a stable, in a cave. No hot water, no central heat. No sterilized medical equipment. No lights, no one else to help. No one prepared for a baby. But Jesus shows up. Jesus is there. He made it. I'm amazed at Joseph and Mary. I'm just amazed of their faith. The birth story is not something that I would ever want to go through as a husband and father. I don't think that birth story is something that any woman would want to go through, but I'm pretty sure that Joseph and Mary were, well, I'm pretty sure they didn't want to go through it either. I mean, they're human beings, but they did. They made it. It challenges my faith. I wondered to myself, could I have done it? Would I have done it? I don't know. I can honestly say I don't know. Would I have trusted God for the journey? Would I have trusted God for the birth? I don't know. I didn't have power for 12 hours. And I was wondering what God was doing to me. You know, the power's out, it's getting cold. God, what are you doing? And I find myself praying, saying, God, hurry up. Get this power on because I'm getting cold. God, whoever's fixing this thing, help them to get it right and help them to fix it soon. Get it right. Hurry up, God. It's 59 degrees. I'm getting cold. When you think about it, I really didn't go through anything. When you think about it, I didn't really have anything to be cranky about or angry about or grumpy about. It was inconvenient, but it certainly wasn't God asking me to do anything like Mary and Joseph did. God wasn't asking big things of me. He wasn't asking anything of me. I was the one doing the asking. Now, I'm sure that Mary and Joseph would have been asking things of God. I'm sure that Mary and Joseph would have been saying, God, help. God, I don't know what I'm doing. What do I do next? Help this baby to come out. I really don't know. God, give us a place. God, help us to figure this out. I'm sure they would have been asking that. And my faith is challenged when I think of what God asked of them. We often make a big deal about what we want to ask God, but my faith is challenged when I think about what God asked of them and how they responded and how they followed in faith and how they trusted. Not knowing how it was going to turn out, not knowing what to do, not having anyone else around them, but fully relying on God. I'm challenged by that. That's an amazing story to me. Would I have done the same? Would I have trusted God for the journey? Would I have trusted God for the birth? Would my faith have stood the test? I don't know. I guess I would answer that by how I respond to God today. Do I trust God today? How is my faith in God today? How do I respond to God today when he asks things of me? See, if Christmas is about a baby, then my response at Christmas is to put my faith in that baby, is to walk in faith with that baby, is to trust God. It's about faith. It's about a young couple trusting God, being far more inconvenienced than power going out. It's about a young couple not even knowing where they're going to end up or what the next step is. It's about a couple not knowing, never giving birth and not knowing how it goes and how do they do it and don't have all the tools with them. It's just about a young couple saying yes to God, to trusting God, to walking with God, to having faith in God. It's about Jesus showing up. It's about faith in him. So it makes me wonder, how is my faith? How is your faith? How are you at trusting God these days? How do we respond to God when he asks us things, when he requires things, when he says, hey, I want you to do this or don't do this? How do we respond? Those are tough questions. I think they're questions we need to think about, questions we need to ponder, questions we need to pray about, questions that we need to answer before God. Perhaps I'll get another power outage and have lots of time to think and pray about them. I hope not. But if that's what God asks me to do, then I will. Because I want to respond to God in faith. I want to be faithful before God, as I'm sure you do. Christmas. I sure do think it's all a lot about faith, our trust in God. So go ahead and think about that. Pray about that. How's your faith? How are you responding to God? Let's respond to him in faith. Let me pray. God in heaven, I thank you for the faith that you've given us. I thank you, God, that you continue to build our faith and strengthen our faith, and you test our faith. Thank you, God, for Mary and Joseph, who trusted you, who walked in faith, so that Jesus was born, so that I could have faith and that I could walk with you and trust in you. Jesus, I pray that this Christmas season, we would receive faith from you, and our faith would grow and be built and be strengthened. And that, God, we would be able to know that when you ask us, we'll respond in faith. So, Jesus, continue to build our faith, show up in our lives, and help us to follow you. I ask this and I pray this in your name, Jesus. Amen. Well, thank you for joining me this morning. May you be blessed today as you follow him in faith.